Welcome to our 5 on 5. Pleased to be joined today by U.S. Congressman Cliff Bentz. Good to see you, sir.
No, it's great to be here.
Thanks for coming by. It's always nice to when you're in town. I want to start talking about something in the Senate, not the House. The Senators Ron Wyden and Jeff Merkley are introducing legislation that would support farmers and ranchers responding to severe drought and restoring fish and wildlife habitat in the Klamath Basin. It's in the Senate, as I said. How familiar are you with the Klamath Power and Facilities Agreement Support Act?
Not very.
Okay. According to, I'll recap it for you, a couple bullet points. The bill, according to their offices, would reduce the cost of power for irrigation districts. It would help pay for the cost of operating an irrigation pumping plant in Tule Lake. It would help to replace the Sea Canal and authorize the Department of the Interior to take ownership of the Keno Dam from PacifiCorp once PacifiCorp removes the lower 4 Klamath dams. If it makes it through the Senate, does this, at least the way I describe it, sound like something you would support in the House?
Well, always want to read the bill before you say much about it. But,
totally fair.
But I would say right now, no. And here's why. The decision regarding the removal of the dams has not yet been what I would say finalized, at least when I last checked. There was one more group that had to approve it after FERC, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. So until that's final, why are we talking about it? On the other hand, there are a bunch of leave-behinds that have to be addressed. But the concept of reducing the electrical rates that farmers pay for pumping water suggests they would have water to pump, and right now they don't. And so what really needs to happen, if we had a real bill, it would be providing the farmers with certainty when it comes to having water. And right now they don't have that. So this is, and the other parts of it, transferring ownership. That particular dam at Keno is an old, worn-out dam, and if it's given to the Bureau of Rec without being repaired first, the Bureau of Rec's going to have to come up with close to $100 million to fix it. And who's going to pay that money? And so I'm not going to support a bill that doesn't address, and maybe it does, that $100 million bill that goes with that dam. So, yeah. And you just say Keno. I just want to make sure we're talking about the same
Keno dam. Yes.
Yes. So anyway, there's a lot in that paragraph you read, and it needs a lot of work and a lot of thought, but the dams haven't come out yet, and let's approach this one step at a time. Not to say we don't need to talk about it. We do. Okay.
The Bureau of Indian Affairs is considering the Coquel tribe's efforts to build a casino right here in city limits of Medford. It's now being discussed at the local level. Ultimately, the federal government will decide if the land is placed into trust. What are your feelings about a possible casino in the city?
So I've been through this conversation with other cities, even the little one I live in, Ontario, Oregon. And years ago, they were thinking about a casino with the Paiute tribe. And so what I did, at that point, I was a legislator, and I called meetings of different people together and asked them what they wanted to do in the local community, so I could base my support or not on what local community members say. And so that's what I'm doing. Part of the reason I'm here is to listen to people here in this community and say, is this what you want? It's a fairly sizable operation, as I understand it, the way the EIS reads. I think it's 600 and some odd machines, and that's big. That's a lot. And so the city needs to be carefully thinking of the impact that would have on its current businesses, and then also on the city. So, but I'm anxious to hear what people locally say. And we've been reaching out, and so we'll continue to do that and reach a decision of whether to be supportive, oppose it, or be neutral. It'll be one of those three.
Interesting. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll have much more in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back to our 5 on 5. Again, we're here with our Congressman Cliff Bentz. Congressman, the anniversary of the war in Ukraine is today. If you were in charge of the United States, what would we be doing differently?
Well, we'd be providing more support to Ukraine so we can get this war over. This war needs to end, and the way we're now approaching it, it will go on. I think most recently I saw 3 more years, and who knows? And so we need a plan. If we're going to be in this, we need to get it over by providing enough support. If we're not going to be in it, then I guess we need to get out. I hope we don't. When we call it the Ukraine war, we should be talking about as a European a war, because if Putin takes Ukraine, he'll then take other countries. He said this, and Poland might be on the table. Other countries that are adjacent to Russia that used to be part of Russia. So what we're really doing is we're trying to make sure that Europe, which is really important to us now that we see China and Russia pairing up, stays strong. And so when we call it Ukraine, we should broaden that discussion, that description.
Former President Trump has announced he's running for president, of course, and is widely reported to be actively seeking endorsements from Republicans in Washington like yourself. Has he asked you for an endorsement?
He has not.
Okay. When is the right time to make a presidential endorsement for you? Is the first time as a sitting congressman?
Well, what you want to do is look carefully at who the candidates might be, and you also want somebody that absolutely can win. You also want someone who can serve 8 years, and one of the problems that President Trump has is that he can only serve 4. So he has to come in and explain why, when he can only serve 4 years, he's just as good as someone else who could serve 8. And so there's many questions that have to be answered before you make that kind of a decision.
Sure.
He did some great things while he was in office. Perhaps he could do great things again, but he has to make that case. And you know, there's much to be talked about in this space, but there's time for that to happen, and I'm looking forward to those discussions.
Indeed, there is a lot of time, and some people are making endorsements, sure. Hence the question. You're hosting a luncheon tomorrow with your Service Academy nominees, I believe. What can you tell us about these young students?
Oh, they're the best. We're so fortunate to have these kind of people willing to step up and serve their country, and it's one of the greatest honors that I have to help these young men and women apply to our service academies and perhaps be accepted. It's amazing to have these conversations with these young men and women. They're great.
Excellent. Good to see you. Thank you so much.
Great to be here. Thank
All
you.
right. Stay with us. We'll be right back.